Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, today we're breaking down a story that completely flips the script on what it means to be your typical fantasy hero. Seriously, if you thought you knew the whole standard transported to another world trope, you've got to get ready to have your expectations totally shattered. Because we're looking at a protagonist whose journey begins not with some grand destiny, but with a massive, literally world-altering insult.
So, what happens when the goddess of a fantasy world decides you're just too ugly to be a hero? Imagine that. The deity meant to bless you and guide you takes one single look at your face and just straight up rejects you on sight. Well, this is the exact predicament our guy, Makoto Misumi, finds himself in. He finds out the hard way that this particular world is governed by a goddess who is entirely obsessed with conventional beauty. And unfortunately for Makoto, he just doesn't meet her extremely vain aesthetic standards.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the ultimate isekai subversion.
Normally, when a high schooler gets summoned to another world to save the day, they're showered with gifts, right? You get the standard experience. A beautiful, kind goddess, super easy to use heroic powers, and a party full of cute human heroines. But Makoto's reality? Yeah, his journey completely shatters those genre expectations right out of the gate. He is instantly insulted by the goddess, physically banished, and just dropped from the sky into a barren wasteland at the very edge of the world. And get this, due to a really cruel curse, he is completely incapable of speaking the common human language. He can literally only communicate with monsters and demi-humans.
To understand exactly how hostile this introduction was, the goddess literally tells him to enjoy your sad, meager life with the lonely orcs and goblins, you little piece of filth. Ouch, right? She strips him of his assigned hero title before he even sets foot on the ground, and by cursing his ability to speak common human tongues, she's ensuring he stays completely isolated from the beautiful humans she favors so fiercely.
Moving right along to Section 2, gathering an unconventional party.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that being banished to a nightmarish, desolate wasteland actually ends up having its unexpected perks. When humanity is entirely off the table, Makoto has no choice but to start gathering an incredibly unconventional party just to survive. First up, we have Tomo. Originally an invincible greater dragon known as Shen, she actually takes the human form of a historical drama-obsessed samurai fanatic. It's amazing. Then we have Mio. Formerly the ancient, world-devouring black spider of disaster, she turns into a ravenously hungry, fiercely loyal partner. And how does a supposedly weak outcast recruit these two? By completely and utterly overpowering these ancient calamities in combat until they happily pledge their unwavering loyalty to him. Talk about a power move.
But you're probably wondering, why do these massive, terrifying monsters look like quirky humans? Well, the answer lies in something called the 80-20 contract. In this world's magic system, a contract basically shares power between a master and a servant. And because Makoto's latent mana is so overwhelmingly dominant, like he makes up the 80 in that 80-20 ratio, the Magic Pact forces these giant mythical beasts to actually take on human appearances to match his dominant species. His sheer magical pressure physically compresses them down into these quirky humanoid forms.
Which brings us to Section 3. Building a monster utopia.
So, what do you do when you have two ridiculously overpowered monster servants and you're banished to a wasteland? You build a monster utopia, obviously. Makoto needs a base of operations, right? So he establishes one inside Tomei's unique magic ability, this secluded, illusionary mist world known as the Demiplane. And this brilliantly illustrates how a completely foggy, empty wasteland quickly transforms. First, Highland orcs migrate there just to escape starvation. Then, master craftsmen, elder dwarfs join the fold. Soon after that, combat-focused mist lizards and a humanoid spider species known as the Archie settle in. It rapidly grows into a thriving, multi-species utopia for all the societal outcasts the goddess completely rejected.
But as you can imagine, putting a bunch of different monster clans in one single place creates a rather unique problem. The warriors of these clans actually start losing their confidence, mostly because they're constantly comparing themselves to Makoto's godlike power. Plus, these species are incredibly stubborn, and they typically hide their specific battle tactics from one another. So, Makoto and his companions come up with a brilliant solution: the Demiplane ranking. They implement a weekly combat tournament, forcing the different species to drop their pride, share their secrets, and cross-train through friendly, no-holds-barred combat. It's a game changer that ends up elevating the strength of the entire utopia.
Okay, let's jump to Section 4, the Merchant's Path.
So the crucial point here is that Makoto doesn't actually want to save the world. He doesn't want to fight wars or defeat a demon king. He genuinely just wants to run a business. He establishes the Kuzunoha Trading Company because he just wants a quiet merchant life, tracing the path of his parents who were originally from this world. But stepping into human cities is kind of tough when you emit an aura that literally feels like multiple demon kings approaching. It terrifies everyone in the vicinity. To solve this, Makoto adopts a ridiculous but highly effective cover story. Step 1. He wears a special mana-absorbing mask and rings crafted by the dwarves called Draupnir just to suppress his overwhelming aura. Step 2. He pretends to be a wealthy merchant's son suffering from a terrible magical curse. And Step 3. Because of the goddess's curse preventing him from speaking the human language, he communicates exclusively through writing on a clipboard. It's totally hilarious, but hey, it gets him through the city gates without causing a mass panic.
Once he's actually inside the human town of Tsieg, the true absurdity of his party's strength becomes glaringly obvious. To put this into perspective, the absolute highest-ranking, most legendary human adventurer in the entire area tops out at level 444. Meanwhile, his companions Tomo and Mio register at level 1320 and 1500. They literally completely break the local guild's measuring tools. And the best punchline of the whole shebang? Makoto himself, the guy who commands them both, registers as a measly level 1, which ensures absolutely no one takes him seriously as a fighter.
Now, Makoto's merchant journey officially kicks off with what we'll call the Rembrandt job. There's this incredibly influential merchant named Rembrandt, whose family is afflicted by an agonizing, near-fatal level 8 curse. By braving dangerous territories to harvest ultra-rare ambrosia flowers to brew a cure, Makoto manages to save them. This event is absolutely vital. It proves that Makoto is entirely willing to show compassion and help humans in need, even though the human's goddess is the one who cruelly rejected and cursed him in the first place.
Let's move on and see how this all builds in our final section, Section 5, Overpowered and Overwhelmed. So while he's trying his hardest to be a peaceful merchant, his abilities are spiraling completely out of control behind the scenes. You see, Makoto was an archer back on Earth, and he still loves practicing. But he utilizes a very specific archery focus. When he draws his bow, he enters an incredibly deep, profound meditative state just to clear his mind. But here's the catch. What he doesn't realize is that this intense focus inadvertently tricks his physical body into simulating the experience of actual death and rebirth every single time he shoots an arrow. And in this magical world, surviving a near-death experience is a well-known way to drastically increase your total mana pool. So, because he shoots arrows literally all the time, his daily archery practice is fundamentally breaking the laws of magic. His mana output has skyrocketed so insanely high that it is literally expanding the physical borders of his demiplane. It's creating entirely new weather systems and stars. His servants realize, with sheer horror honestly, that his magical capacity now rivals the actual gods of the world. It's a god-level mana limit packed inside a high schooler who just wants to sell fruit and monster materials. No big deal, right?
Which brings us to the ultimate provocative question that I want to leave you with as we wrap up this explainer. How long can Makoto realistically hide this rapidly expanding godlike power while stubbornly trying to live a quiet merchant's life? I mean, it leaves us all to wonder exactly when that cruel, vain goddess will finally look down and notice the completely unstoppable, world-altering force that has been brewing right under her nose. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this brilliant subversion of fantasy tropes. I really hope you found this breakdown as fascinating as I did. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.